grab a drink, pull up a chair. Welcome to the Basement Lounge, ladies and gentlemen. We have reached episode 50, our season 1 finale. We've made it. We somehow managed to make it all this way. Couple hiccups along the road, but we got there, and we are so happy to round out the very first season of the show with a very, very special guest who you might know from many places around the internet. You might know him from the Top 10 show. You might know him as one of the co-hosts of the Geek Buddies, as the co-host of the Cinephiles. You might know him as the voice of a frog robot from a Transformers cartoon. You might know him from Mexican food commercials. You might know him from his own stuff in the Outlaw Nation. He is John Rocha. John, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me on, man. I'm looking forward to it, Mike. It's great to see you.
Good to see you too. The Transformers one was the one that got me. My little brother was going back and watching Transformers cartoons on Netflix, and he gets to an episode, and I'm like, I know that voice. I googled it, and I was just like, bull crap. We're gonna get into all of it. We're gonna talk all about you, and but the first thing, with the world being the way it is, what I like to ask my guests when they first come on is just, John, how are you doing, man?
Today I am a little exhausted. It's been a long day. I've been hosting a bunch of shows today, and hustling and trying to build up the brand. We just passed the 6-month anniversary in the Outlaw Nation, so it's starting to feel like, okay, what's the next iteration? I'm never satisfied. I'm never 100% happy, which is why I keep going and keep creating and keep doing new things. And so today is just one of those days where I didn't say no to anybody, and I just felt like doing a bunch of shit today. So and we can cuss on here, right?
Oh, fuck it.
Okay, I just want to make sure. But yeah, so I am in the midst of a 5-show run today. I did the morning show, my morning show, the SEN show, then hosted the sports show. Then I did about a 20-minute drop-in for the Ethan Irwin match we got going on Twitch. I did it on Twitch. The match is not on Twitch. It's on pay-per-view. Okay. And then and now I'm doing your show. And then after your show, I jump onto the Wangers. So it's a busy day, and I'm doing okay.
So thank you for making time.
Please. For you, anything, man. For you, anything, brother.
I appreciate that. We'll get into the Schmoedown. We'll get into, of course, the Outlaw Nation. 6 months to have launched, finally launched full into your own channel of content creating, and to make it 6 months, honestly, speaks more than some people give up after one.
Really? Wow.
It's the world we live in. People expect instant. They make a video instant virality, and they're not willing to put in the work. They don't realize it takes years.
It does. It takes time. Not everyone can jump out the gate with 77,000 subscribers like Dan Murrell. A lot of us have to fight to get to that spot. So, much respect to Danny Boy, but that was, it's a tough mountain when you look at it to climb. So you just got to keep pushing and innovating and changing and exploring and not being too precious about it. I think that's the number one thing that I'm discovering, is to not be too precious about the things that I've created. The things that work really work. The things that don't work, and I'm trying to fight to figure out how to make them work, might have to take another, iteration, might have to be something else. And so those are the things I'm learning too, not to be too precious about the things that I create.
You hear that in the creative space a lot. You have to learn how to kill your darlings.
Yeah.
No matter how much you believe in something, if it's not working, it's not working. You see that in stand-up too. No matter how much I might think my joke about the letter Y being a part-time vowel is funny, it doesn't mean anybody else is going to think it's
true.
That I try to make that work. Not so much. So you're originally from over here on the East Coast, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was born in Philly, but I was raised in Virginia since I was 1 year old. Wow.
And both your parents were from Bolivia, correct?
Yeah, South America and Bolivia. Yeah, my dad from Cochabamba, my mom from La Paz. But they met here, ironically enough, not in Bolivia. So, yeah. So
they just two Bolivian immigrants just happened to meet up in the States.
Yeah. I mean, it was really interesting because they got married on their 4th date, which I guess is how it was back then. But my mom met my dad when my uncle had brought my mom on a first date to, because they're Latino, they're old school. So that's you meet the family first before you go on the date or while you're on the date to kind of see if they approve or not. Well, my mom slid her number to my dad because she could tell she wasn't being interested in him. When she saw my dad, it was like poof. And so she slid her number to him. My dad is 10 years older than her at the time. Well, was. And then, they went out behind my uncle's back. Then he found out about it. My dad told him, this is happening. I hate to break it to you. This is happening. And then they got married. Yeah. Fourth date. Yeah. Yes.
It was old as time, man. That's
yeah.
That whole girl goes on a date that's chaperoned and meets the guy's brother and dates him. Yeah, it's Romeo and Juliet.
Totally.
Only with the much happier ending.
Right.
And then so you grew up in Virginia. And then college was, and I know college was kind of a mixed bag with you.
Yeah. My first trip through college was a mess, and just for a number of reasons. And then I just joined the military. And was doing that for a little bit, and then started going back to college to get my AA degree later on in my 20s while I was still in the military, and then eventually went to Florida State in '97, and that was a life-changing experience. Like I don't think my life would be anywhere near as exciting or crazy or have as many adventures if I had just stayed in that small town of Virginia.
The first run through college, for me was that first taste of independence from mom and dad.
Yeah.
Again, I kind of crashed and burned pretty hard. Was it kind of the same situation for you?
Quite ironically, completely different in that it was a commuter school. So I didn't get that independence from my mom and dad. I had to live at home for the first couple of years. I was managing a video store to be able to pay for college. I think the mistake I made was that I was so it was such a culture shock to go to college versus high school. I couldn't make friends with anybody. I was having battles with people in class. I just was not in the best space. And then I stupidly joined a fraternity. Now, this is not against anybody who has great experiences with a fraternity. My experiences were horrible. Right. I was the only liberal in an ultra conservative fraternity. So it just did not work for me at all. And
in Virginia, I mean, that's
yeah, right. And so, and it was the worst. I saw guys like cheating on each other's girlfriends, cheating on each other's wives. I saw insane amount of drinking, sexual assault, all that kind of shit. And I just was like, this isn't for me. And I left. I remember going to see Malcolm X, and there's a line in the movie that says you should never be a member of any group that you don't research for, you don't get enough knowledge about. And it just kind of hit me on my head. It's like I joined the fraternity just to be a part of something. I didn't really join the fraternity because I wanted to join the fraternity. So that, once again, that might not be the fraternity's fault. It was just a bad mix overall, and it wasn't for me in the end. And and then I left school. And went into the military. It was kind of the decision there.
Yeah, I had the opposite thing with the fraternity where I was being courted by one, and then just kind of in my own meeting people and going to some of the events, which is kind of like it's not my thing.
Yeah,
I could kind of see, I guess, for some of the red flags ahead of time.
Yeah,
and, there was a level of like kind of like you said, it's just like I just wanted to make friends.
Yeah.
But the military. So you joined? Was it the Army?
Yeah, went in the Army. I remember, like I said, I was managing that video store at the time. It was 1990, I think, and a recruiter came into the store. He had been in the store many times. I'd seen him a few times, and I guess this one time. And the thing is, I was so depressed at the university that I had started to put on weight. Like I wasn't working out, and I was just in a super depressed place. And I remember feeling maybe the first inklings of suicidal ideas. The idea like, well, I'm disgusting. I'm unattractive. I don't think I'm going to go anywhere. And at the time I was really obsessed with finding love, obsessed with being in love, and, all of that back then, because it was feeling I was searching for something that I didn't get while I was at home. And it's not a fault of my parents necessarily. It's just where I was. So this recruiter was coming through, and I remember I was just so desperate to get out of the situation I was in. I felt like I was on a one-way street straight into a wall. And I said to him, I know you're a recruiter. how quickly could I be on a bus to basic training if I come down tomorrow morning and sign up? And he said, I could have you on a bus in 3 weeks. I said, okay.
Wow.
So the next morning, I remember as a friend of mine, Robbie, he came, I think his name's Robbie. He came, I haven't seen him. We drove over there. I took the test. I got like a 94, something like that on the ASVAB. So basically I had my choice of whatever branch of the service I wanted to go in. Now, if I had been a little bit smarter, I'd have gone into the Air Force, because the Air Force really does train you for the post-military world in many, many ways. But I felt like my commitment was to this recruiter who said he could get me on the bus. And it maybe the Air Force situation was like 2 months from now, I could go to basic or something like that. I don't remember, but I took the base. I was not going to go Marines. That wasn't for me. And Navy just didn't seem right at the time. Even though I was a huge Top Gun fan, just didn't seem right at the time. So I joined the Army, and I was on a bus 3 weeks later. And I didn't tell my parents, by the way, before I signed up. And because I was over 18, I was allowed to do it without their permission. But my dad and mom were supremely pissed and hurt for quite some time, you know.
That you went, or that you did it without talking to them first?
Yeah, I did it. Well, both really. That I did it without talking to them. They were hurt by that, but they were pissed by that, but they were hurt by the fact that I would just, you know, kind of possibly throw my life away or, you know, put myself in harm's way and danger. My dad, I remember very clearly, my dad said to me, he's like, you can't even take discipline from me. How are you going to take discipline from the military people? Like, you're not going to be able to follow their rules. You're always rebelling against, I guess, an outlaw from the beginning, because you're always rebelling against my rules. Because my dad and I used to have hellacious fights, verbally and a couple of times physically. And so he was just concerned that I would be in a bad situation. And he wasn't wrong, Mike, because I'd seen Full Metal Jacket the year before, or a few years before. And so in my mind, I thought that I was going to be like Private Pyle. So I was super scared that I was going to get a soap party at some point. You know, so there was a lot of going into it. Yeah.
It's like watching Jaws before you go on a beach vacation.
Or in the water.
Or in the, it's you know, one of the things that initially drew me to you as a Schmoedown competitor and as an online personality is that there's a level of everyman relatability to you.
Thanks, man.
You know, similar, and for me especially, you know, similar situation. You know, my dad and I had a very rough relationship growing up. It wasn't until I got to be an adult and we kind of got past that. And by that, I mean, I quit being a shithead of a teenager, that we were able to kind of work past that.
It's tough to do. It's tough to do.
Yeah. There are still some that I look back on even now and I'm like, nah, I was right. That was right. Love you, Dad. But Dad, I had you there. But you know, it's interesting you bring up, like, you know, the idea of you can't even follow my own orders, what made me the last there, which I think was actually one of the reasons why I never, because I had the recruiter, you know, the summer before my high school, my senior year of high school, you know, they started calling the house like, hey, you ever given any thought to join? And I was like, I had seen a few good men and was thinking law school time. So I was like, I don't know. I thought about like maybe like joining up and becoming an MP or something for the Guard. All right, cool. We'll be at your house tomorrow. And then these guys showed up and I was like, oh, it was a fleeting thought like 2 years ago, man. But there is that idea of like some people do go there to learn, to get that sense of discipline in their life. And did you kind of come out with that?
Oh yeah, I think it still serves me today, that whenever I, you know, really think I can't do something, or really think I don't have strength to do something, I remember, hey, you survived this, you know. And it really came in handy after my father died. I mean, that was maybe some of the worst 3 years of my life, and it was like every time it got to be too much, I'd remember, hey man, you were able to survive this, you were able to get over this, you were able to get past this. And you know, that was difficult enough as it was. So if you can get past this, if you could get past that, you can get past this. So there was a lot of that for myself personally. So yeah, it's always come in handy. I mean, going back to college and studying all of that, like I have a very strong discipline about things like that. This is why the Outlaw Nation 6 months, you know, I rarely miss a show. But that's born out of the idea of wanting to do that, and my allegiance is to this, and my dedication is to this. So there's a discipline factor that really gets involved. You know,
when you were in the military, what was your, like, were you a boots on the ground infantry?
No, I was a 31 Charlie. I was a radio telephone operator. So, you know, yeah, in charge of moving troops around, relaying messages about troop movement, all of that. You know, when I went in to the average lifespan of a radio telephone operator in Iraq, I think it was the first Gulf War, was like 7 minutes, something like that. That's what they were thinking.
What?
Because the antenna you put up is like a 60-foot, 75-foot silver antenna in the middle of the desert. That is going to stick out. In Vietnam, it was even less, less because of like the anomaly of the jungle and all that. So it had its own dangers or perils. And I remember that distinctly when I was in. So, yeah.
So even in the Army, you were already like in that realm of broadcasting and
yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, I was an actor in high school, and, I wanted to be an actor when I first went to college, and I just didn't have the guts. Because my parents were always like, oh, you're not going to make any money. You're going to be poor. This is a terrible thing. And so they tried to steer me into other things, but I was always drawn back to it. And I even DJ'd my first trip through college for a couple of years at the local radio station, because I was just like, I have to scratch this itch. And so, yeah, so I've always been involved in some form of broadcasting, I suppose.
I miss working in radio, man. It was so much fun.
I wish I could get a job in radio that could do like Sirius XM. I want to know how much those fuckers get paid to host those shows from their bathroom. Like, I want to know how much they get paid, because if I can do that with my eyes fucking closed. So it's like, okay, how do you get into a situation like that?
I worked for an FM rock station in college for 2 years, and I was the board operator on nights and weekends, and I used to beg to let them have it because we had no programming on at this time. I was like, let me have an hour. Let me just have an hour of, and I was more into the heavier stuff, and I was like, let me have an hour of like Metallica and just from like 11 to midnight, low dollar risk. And they wouldn't let me do that, but they didn't have but it made me mad because it was like, you get Steve from accounting, who comes in every month, records all the air breaks for the month because they pre-plan that stuff out.
Right.
And I was also 18, 19 years old. Who the hell was I? But yeah, it's radio. I did it all through college, and I think it's part of the reason why I still do this. Is, man, it was just fun.
Yeah. Well, everyone tells you've got a great radio voice, so it's just a matter of getting yourself in the position, man.
You got a great radio voice and a great radio face too. So. Theater kid in high school. I remember those days. My mom and dad too were kind of you can do this, but have a backup plan.
Right, of course, always. They always mean well.
Yeah. And again, it ended up being a good idea. So
yeah, true.
On it too much. Did you continue doing because it was by the time you left the Army and were back into college then at Florida State, were you still? I mean, you were still on the actor train, right?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, because when I left the first college and went into the military, I had only done one play, I think, at that college, because I was kind of hiding it from my mom and dad. Like, I was going to rehearsal, but I would tell them that I was going to study with friends at night. So it's like I would stay late at the college. So they didn't find out till much later that I was doing that. So,
so you were what's the kid's name from
Robert Sean Leonard. Yeah. Except my dad was not Kurtwood Smith. It wasn't that kind of a situation. But yeah, I mean, he just didn't want me to do it. And so, because he was worried about me. But when I went back to college, I remember coming out of the military or beginning the process of coming out of the military. And I remember thinking to myself, well, what do I really want to do with my life? What do I really want to do? Well, I'm 27 years old, or 25, 24 when I started going back to college. And I was like, I want to go back to college. I want to get my degree. I didn't get a chance to get my degree the first time through. So I started slowly but surely putting it back together, going to the junior college, a community college. And I got my AA degree. And at that point, I took a year off and went and lived in Charlottesville, Virginia with my best friend, who's still my best friend now. And we worked at a TV station together. And I was a master control operator, and he was the host. He was a sports host. And in that year is when I kind of took a little bit of a break. And then I started submitting to colleges, and I got accepted to Florida State. And I remember I brought the letter. I was opening the letter or whatever. I read the letter to my friend, and I was just like, do I really want to go to college? Like, do I really want to do this? Like, do I really want to go? I mean, I'm kind of making a big, strong choice about acting and blah, blah, blah. Maybe I can just stay here and work. And so he goes, tell you what, why don't you go interview one of the guys who's one of the directors here for the news. Sit down with him, have a conversation with him, and you tell me whether you'll be happy with that kind of life for the rest of your life. Because you could absolutely do that till you're dead or you retire. And I was like, all right. So I sat with this guy. Remember Todd Sands, that was his name, Charlottesville, Virginia, NBC 29. We sat and talked for like half an hour, and I asked him about everything. And he was very kind to find time to talk with me. He's a busy job. And as he was talking to me, I could see I'm stuck here for the rest of my fucking life vibe coming through when he spoke about it. And I just remember being like, yeah, nah, I've always had dreams for something bigger. So that kind of conversation, I was just like, yeah, all right, fine. So, and I went back to our apartment that night, and he was just like, well, what was your conversation like? And in the end, he was like, see, I told you, this is not, if you're here, it's almost like Ben Affleck and David. He in Goodwill. He's like, if you're here in 6 months, I'm going to move out because I don't want to be around you if you're not going to pursue this, because I think you should. Right. And so it was his way of kicking my ass to go to Florida State. And he was right, man. I mean, I remember driving down to Florida State. As soon as I stepped out of the car and smelled the air down there, I knew I was in the right place. I knew Tallahassee. Oh. I just knew it instinctually. And so my dad and I that weekend, we got an apartment for me. And then I moved my stuff down. Maybe a couple weeks later or a month later, I moved my stuff down, and that was that. Started the process.
There's something about finding the right college.
Yeah.
Some people find it right off the bat. They're cool with where they're at. Cool, good for them. I bounced around a bit too. And there was something about where I finally landed on what would be my alma mater, where like I remember taking like that first day and just kind of being like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
It's like when you find the right car or the right house. Or you just know, man.
Yeah.
And then I believe Florida State. Now that's where you met. Isn't that where you met Christian?
Yes, Christian. I mean, and the thing is, Christian and I we were friends and we knew each other, but I didn't hang out with Christian like, in the places that were, the boxing, all that kind of stuff. I didn't do any of that. Like that was all Christian doing it on the side. I had no idea about any of it. And I'm sure he invited me, and I'm sure I was like, yeah, I'm not watching on knuckle boxing in the middle of the street kind of shit. I'm here to get a degree, man. I don't need to be getting into any, and that's what you do in your 20s, young 20s. You're like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. But me, I was 27, 28 when I finally got to Florida State. So for me, the focus was getting my degree, getting A's in every one of my classes, and soaking up as much of this as I could, it's so Christian and I knew each other, and we'd hang out every once in a while, but I wasn't hanging out at his house or anything like that, while I was there, or in his apartment or anything, or going to these fights. So, we respected each other, You
want to go hang out in his fight club?
Because eventually you're going to have to fight.
Yeah, right.
I think that's the 8th rule of Fight Club. If it's your first night, you fight. But yeah, I mean, it was cool to be down there. I met a lot of great friends. I mean, the Geek Buddies, Michael I met him at Florida State, Michael Vogel and Shannon as well. Yeah, Shannon was at Florida State for like semester or half a year. And then he went off and did his own thing. So those are lifelong friendships that I still have lifelong friends. I mean, the woman that just shot my headshots is someone that I was friends with back in college. She was a very sought after professional photographer here in Los Angeles, and now she's moving to Atlanta. So, I mean, I have a number of friends, and it's why we roll so deep. We just have a number of friends that are lifelong friends now that I met at Florida State. So, yeah, it was the right choice.
Those college friendships, man, there's nothing like them. I have 2 friends from high school that I still talk to once in a while. It's something about the people you meet in college, especially when the ones who are like, in your school, studying the same things, and you have similar career paths, and there's a bond that forms there.
Yeah.
Because I went in when I was finishing school. I was the old man on campus too, because I had taken so much time off. And there was a kid my senior year. I call him a kid. He's married now, but
wow.
As I was getting ready to graduate, he was having his freshman year, and now he's my my creative partner, my writing buddy, and it's so interesting. Like you mentioned, like you've got Mike and Shannon, who you guys go back that far, and now you're hosting a podcast together, and it's crazy how long those settle in for.
Yeah.
How did you come about making your way out to Los Angeles?
Well, I think I'd always figured, like, I'd always loved movies. I mean, even as a kid, I was a fan of movies, and there was this decision to be made when I was heading towards my graduation. And by the way, I graduated in '99, but I stuck around for another year running a production company and making money off that production company
Whoa.
to fund my move to Los Angeles. I was able to
We're
make
talking
about
that.
was that?
We're talking about that.
Yeah. Okay.
What was the production company, man? What was that like?
Yeah, it was. It was all for plays. So I was a producer and director, and it just was, it's a happy accident. I wanted to direct Glenn Ross, and I did it as an experiment at college. And by the way, I'd had no training as a director. I just knew what I know works, and instinctually, I just knew. And so, and at the time at Florida State, you could petition their. There was like a committee you could petition and pitch plays and pitch yourself to direct it or produce it in their black box theater. So I did Glenn Ross. And when I did Glenn Ross, that really kind of opened people's eyes. And then when I played the lead in Titus Andronicus, that opened people's eyes about me as an actor. So I was building a resume there, a knowledge or a brand, for lack of a better term. And so when I graduated, I was like, well, I want to expand out, because I directed a couple of things. And I said, I want to expand out of the college. Like, I want to try something professionally. So 12 Angry Men was something that I always wanted to direct, but I wanted to do it with a multi-gender cast or gender blind cast and a colorblind cast. And so I set about doing that there in Tallahassee. I started a production company. I originally was going to produce it and hired a director, but he backed out at the last minute. And so I, in essence, had to direct it. And thanks to my friend Andre Gordon, who encouraged me every step of the way, I was able to do it, and I learned a lot of lessons about how to speak to people, about how to get people to get to where they're going, how to motivate different people to do different things depending on who they are as people, as actors. So all those things I had to learn by, trial and error, because again, I hadn't been trained. I hadn't been trained in any of this. I just knew what visually worked for me. So I ended up doing it in the round. So I completely I rented bleachers and had them installed. Like, it was a whole thing, and I just had a vision for it. And I used the VOMs. And it got great reviews, and people loved it, and I made a good chunk of change. And then I directed another one. I can't remember what it was, but I directed another play and then made the money off that. And from there, that's what gave me enough to fund my trip to California, to come out to California.
That's so cool. I love those homegrown grassroots stories like that. I love that stuff.
I don't know any other way to do it, man. No one's ever been in a position to throw me money. I always have to fight for it or whatever. So it's my job. It's my life.
If you ever find out the position needed to get money thrown at you, please, just post it online.
Being attractive helps. Being young helps. Being pretty helps. All those things help. Yeah, right. Exactly. I had none of those at the time, and barely do now. So yeah. I mean, it was a fun situation, and I learned a lot as a director. I learned a lot as an actor. I learned a lot as a people person, but I was proud of it. I was really proud of the time I did there.
Directing and producing versus acting. Do you I know you've done a lot more of the acting. Getting back into directing and producing, is that something I know you kind of do that right now with the Outlaw Nation.
Yeah.
But like in the theater scene or maybe like independent film, is that something you've given any thought to?
A film would be interesting. I think I'd have to have a great cinematographer on set who was not egotistical. Someone like Greg Toland, who taught Wells, and Wells taught him. So if I could work in conjunction with a great cinematographer that I think has my best interests in mind, then yes. But other than that, I actually, it's funny, we were talking about this. I was actually thinking about that the other day. Now that with all this COVID situation, everything happening, I wonder how much more open theaters would be to take a chance on a guy who's only directed 2 or 3 things in his entire life, and it was 20 years ago. Would they let me come in and direct something? I mean, we were watching an episode of Perry Mason, and I saw that I had no idea black cab drivers existed back in the 40s for this company called Jitney. And she, Lindley, we were sitting there and she's like, oh yeah, August Wilson. She used to work at the Boston theater there where August would preview his plays. And so she said, I used to come when I come to work, I'd make sure to come a little early so I could watch his plays going on and blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, yeah, he wrote an incredible play called Jitney about black taxi drivers back in LA in the 40s. And I was like, holy shit. So, so I was excited by that. And so maybe I might get a copy of the play and read it. And if it sounds interesting, then I might start pitching it around town as something to do, as if I, have a lot of time or anything, but it would be fun to direct the play again and see if I could pull it off again, So yeah, I've thought about it for sure.
I studied August Wilson in high school. I never knew that, or in college. I never knew that.
Yeah. Right.
I took an African-American literature class in college, and that was one of the most fascinating classes I ever took.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I learned. I mean, that's where I discovered Fences. Talking about August.
Oh,
Wilson.
yeah.
To me, to this day, it's still one of my favorite plays.
Yeah.
Getting it, and then getting, you've done a lot of voice acting, and we've talked about voice acting quite a bit on this show. When we talk about stand up, we tell people if you want to get into it, write some jokes, go to an open mic. If you want to get into music, pick up an instrument, learn to play it. Getting into voice acting, it's not like even regular acting, it's like go audition for a play.
Right.
Voice acting, on the other hand, it's such a different ball game, and the channels to get into that world aren't as obvious. Is that something you can shed a little insight on?
Well, I mean, my story is unique, and because and when we hosted that podcast for a long time or show, Yuri Lowenthal, we hosted 2 versions of a show about interviewing people in the voiceover world, and first one was called Cast of Characters. We did that over on the defunct Geek Nation. I think it's defunct. And then we did something called Super Animation Game Time over for Geek and Sundry, where we bring guests in to talk about their experiences as voiceover artists. And, the one thing that was the constant narrative of all those shows is that there was never one way in to become a voiceover artist. There are many, many ways in, and you just never know how it'll drop in your lap or how it'll present itself. For me, it was that, again, my friend Andre Gordon, who had, once again, lifelong friend from Florida State, he had kind of hustled his way into William Morris. He became a voiceover artist at William Morris Endeavor. And he was good friends with an assistant at the time, forget her name, but I think Terry was her name, and he was good friends with her. And so she kind of walked him in there, and they liked his voiceover reel, and so they took him. Well, he said he found out that they were looking for voiceover artists who spoke Spanish. So he pitched me, because I was fluent, he pitched me to the agent who was representing those talent at the time. And he took me, I auditioned for the Scarface video game. He liked what I did with it. I didn't book it, but he liked what I did. So he said, what I'll do is I'll back pocket you. And then while I'm back pocketing you, which means I'm not going to sign you until you book something, I will give you auditions or send you auditions. You can come in to audition here. In the meantime, work on a reel. In the meantime, figure out what this career is and blah, blah, blah. And so that's what I did. So, I mean, it was my friend. It's one of those Hollywood things. It's who you know. My friend saw this possibility. He reached out to me. I went in and auditioned for it, and the guy really liked me. And I was represented by William Morris for voiceover all the way up until about 2 months ago here in Los Angeles, because of they shut down their entire voiceover division for anybody but celebrities because of the high cost overruns of COVID and everything like that. So now I'm on the hunt for a new voiceover agent. So, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a weird world, man.
That's just it's so usually and for me I've done some serialized podcasts and stuff like that, which are fun, and you get to flex a little bit like that. But yeah, it does seem, from kind of like what you said, it does seem to be one of those things where everyone's story, I think everyone's story for getting into their career is different in general, but for voice acting in particular, it's like there's no 2 stories from anybody that are alike. As far as voice acting versus like live acting, do you have because you've done some TV and obviously theater?
Oh yeah, theater's where I live and breathe, man. I'm not good. I don't like being on camera. I don't like acting for on camera. I mean, I'll do it. I'm getting a new agent. Oh, I've got a new agent now, and I just took new headshots, so I'll be getting back on the audition train for commercials and possibly theatrical stuff. But theater is where I live and breathe, man. It's why I do well in live events, man. I can feel the crowd. It's instinctive. It's organic within me. And so when I feel the crowd with me, man, I roll with it, man. I love it. Love that energy. And so it's like a drug. It really is what people say. It's why so many people who love the theater stay in it for so long. It's such an incredible drug, man.
There are days I miss it. There are days. Yeah. I did it all through college.
Yeah.
And, just the last one I did we did the Trojan Women.
Oh yeah, right.
I was King Menelaus. That was fun.
Nice.
That was fun. Because my whole role is to stand there and have Helen try to seduce me into not having her executed. Spoiler alert: I have her executed anyway. But
right.
That was fun. That was funny because the armor they put me in was not built for a guy my size, but it's what we had. I couldn't move very well in it, and so they were giving out fake awards at the end of the run, and they were like, for least likely to move his arms, the award. Because I couldn't move. It was embarrassing.
That's great.
It was fun though. So how did you meet Steve Morris to come around to put together the Cinephiles?
Oh, well, Steve and I knew each other as friends for a long time through our friend Michael Vogel, the Geek Buddy, Michael Vogel.
Yeah.
I think Michael had met our friend Vicky, who's been on the Cinephiles. She was on the When Harry Met Sally episode. She was an actress here in LA. We had just gotten to LA, and they came ahead of me. Like the guys, the Florida State crew were about 6 months ahead of me because they had graduated. Like I said, I'd stayed after to do production company. I also worked for a accounts payable firm for a women's domestic violence shelter for money. Like I was doing that as well. So really proud of that. And I earned enough money with that and the theater stuff to fund my trip to LA. But so they were ahead of me by about 6 months, and they had, already started auditioning for plays. Michael at the time was still considering being an actor, so he took a job, or he got cast in a play. There was a Greek play, one of the Greek plays. I don't remember what it was at the time. I can't remember what it was. One of the female named ones. I can't remember what it is, but so he met Vicky, and Vicky knew some people, and those people knew Steve and Karen, his wife Karen. And so there was the Florida State crew. There was about, 20 to 30 people. And then there was the USC Cal crew, the California crew. And we melded our groups together. So it became like a super group of like 40 something people. And Steve was one of those people along with Karen. And so we met through there. And then Steve and I and all of us, we'd all get into random conversations whenever we'd all get together, philosophical conversations, movie conversations. We'd go to see movies and, go out afterwards and drink and talk about it, debate it, get into it and all that kind of fun stuff. And so when this career of mine started taking off after Christian had kind of introduced me into the space, I remember at the time I was hosting a bunch of the after shows at Collider as a freelancer, and then hosting my own stuff, and Top 10 had already started to happen. And I think I was doing the Yuri Lowenthal one as well. So at a party randomly, when we all got together, some party we were all at, Steve came up to me and he's like, "Hey man, it'd be fun to do a podcast with you." I was like, "Yeah, I'm so busy with all the stuff. I don't know." And he's like, "Well," and our friend Jonathan Blue, who's now married to Saryu Blue, and Saryu is a up-and-coming actress or famous actress. She was the lead in I Feel Bad on NBC, and then she was also in she's an Indian actress, a couple other things, Indian descent, right? She's not from India, but Indian descent, and we were originally going to call it. Well, we kicked around the idea. To me, it was just a playful idea. Like we kicked around the idea of calling it, I don't know, what do you think? That was going to be the name, because that's the game we would play with each other when we'd all hang out and talk about movies. We'd always end whatever diatribe or soliloquy or monologue we were on about a film and end it with, I don't know, what do you think? And that's the kind of, and so we kind of talked about the possibility of it. Well, Blue kind of fell off because he was doing his own thing. And then Steve kind of reached out to me one day and said, "Hey man, I'd really still like to do this. If I pay for everything and set everything up and kind of be the person who is hosting it, would you be willing to do the show?" And I go, "I'd be happy to do the show as long as you understand it's 50-50 and I don't have to do any of the technical stuff. I don't want to pay to put it on iTunes. I don't want, this is what you want to do. I will happily co-host it and bring my audience. I don't want to say massive because at times I'm at 20,000, but I'll bring my audience to this and we'll see if it can work, And so that's how it started. That's essentially how it started. I hope he told the same story because that's how I remember it.
We'll fact check it later.
Yeah, feel free. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I remember it happening.
Groveling, begging him for a shot.
Yeah, right. Me begging. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, and Steve didn't beg or anything. He just wanted to do a show. I mean, I think Steve was in a place where he's like, I want to do something to talk about movies because he loves movies as much as all of us do, And so it was a great idea. And dude, I had no idea it was going to become what it became. And I tried to walk away from it a couple of times because I just become frustrated. I don't know if you know this about me, Mike, but I like to run my own things. And so when I don't run my own things, I become very agitated. I become very paranoid or suspicious or whatever. And so I become, I just start to get antsy if I don't run my own thing, And so that's why the Outlaw Nation runs through me. It all runs through me. And I just prefer it that way for my own sanity. So yeah,
I get it. I do get it. I'm a control freak.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I want to make sure it's clear.
I said I'm a control freak.
Okay, all right.
I like to know what's going on, and I like to make sure that when it's something I'm involved in, that it's going the way I want it to go.
Yeah, right.
It's why I make my own. It's why I direct my own short films. It's like, do you want to be in mine? I'd rather run the show myself. I have a hard time. That's probably another reason why I wouldn't have made it in the military. It's like I would get issued an order and be like, well, I don't know about that.
And they'd be like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, here he comes again. What do you got to say now?
Yeah,
it would basically be that. Yeah.
I'd be some weird combination of Gomer of Private Pile and whatever rich mayonnaise and mayo.
Oh yeah, mayo. Yeah, right.
Gentlemen.
I got nowhere else to go. Yeah.
The TV station I work at, I swear we run that movie every month. I've seen that movie more than like anything. Yeah, God forbid we get a syndicated version of like The Dark Knight or something. No, we get one of the longest freaking dry, and it's a good movie, but driest military movies on the face of the earth. I'm gonna get fired. But so and then there's the Geek Buddies, which is you and Mike Vogel and Shannon and you're wearing a Superman t-shirt right now.
Yeah.
I see Star Wars something or whatever over your shoulder there. So
around.
You're a geek. And it's one of those, where we see your persona in a lot of things. It's a lot of people wouldn't immediately think geek right off the bat, you know? And how much has like that geek culture like been a part of your life, like your whole life? Like when did that really
I mean, from the beginning, dude, I used to get beat up in middle school, high school all the time up for liking the geeky stuff, for being into the nerdy stuff. And it wasn't cool when I was growing up. It's cool now. It wasn't cool when I was growing up. Well, yeah, I think so. Nerds rule the world now, for better or worse. I mean, for me at the time, it was something you hid away, it's purposely. It's why I never got into D&D, because I was like, if I get into this, I'll get my ass kicked all the time and blah, blah, blah. And so I stayed away from it all. And now it's all cool. And now people have D&D parties, all the hips people love to do RPG stuff, at that time, you didn't do that. I envy the people that do it now. I'm like, I wish that had been a cool thing for me to do back then, but it wasn't. So
never too late to get into it. It's never too late.
I guess.
You also need to have at least a free hour a week, which it seems like you just don't.
Just don't know. And so it was. But the ironic thing is this: like, I had to adjust my life at 15 years old because I was getting my ass kicked all the time, and I was just frustrated and tired of it. And I remember one time getting chased out of a soccer practice by these two older dudes who just laughed their motherfucking ass off at me, running and crying, because I didn't want him to beat me up anymore. And my coach did fucking fuck all. And it was probably why he probably was friends with the dude's dads and thought it was funny to watch the little Latino kid getting chased out of soccer practice by his two white fucking buddies. So for me, or his buddy's kids. So for me, that was the moment that I remember going home. I think it was the fact that I went, because those guys bullied me for like 2 or 3 years. And Alan Stevens and Wade Ware, that's their fucking names in Virginia. And I don't give a rat's ass if anybody hears it, but like those guys were such complete fucking assholes to me through high school and middle school. And I remember one time I used to go pick up my sister from elementary school. And I remember one time they were waiting for me behind one of the so I would take the shortcut through the residential areas instead of the sidewalk. And I remember them waiting behind one of the fences because they had, I guess they'd been scoping me out, taking these shortcuts to go pick up my sister, because I picked her up almost every day from elementary school. And I remember I come around the corner one day and Wade is standing there, and I'm like, fuck me. And I'm just like, hey, man. And I'm just trying to walk past him, and they like move in front of me, and I'm like, shit. And I'm like, listen, I don't want any trouble, man. I'm just going to pick up my sister. And before I could finish the sentence, he clocked me so fucking hard in the eye, sent me right down to the ground, man. For no reason. I mean, no fucking reason. I was just a fat, tubby Latino kid with a bowl haircut, and that's why. And so I remember, them kicking me a couple of times, and then just me lying there in the fucking fetal position, just covering my eyes or covering my face and trying to cover my body. And then they walked away, and I got up, and I remember I still had to go pick up my sister. I could not go home and just like take care of my injuries. I had to go pick up my sister. So I remember walking there to the elementary school. And I remember as soon as I got close to my sister, she just burst out crying because she was so like horrified at the welt on my eye and just the dirt on my clothes and the look of me. And so she was just like, what happened? I said, those guys beat me up again. I don't know what to do. And we walked all the way home. My sister cried all the way home. She's such a sweetheart. All the way home. And I remember I waited for my dad to come home, and we sat down at dinner, and I told him what happened because he saw it, and I told him what happened. And I said, Dad, I don't ever want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I know you don't want me to fight. I know you don't want me to throw hands because you had bad experiences, but in this country, Dad, you got to fight. You got to figure out how to fight. So summer is coming. I know that I can't take another semester of this. So whatever it takes, I need you to help me, and I need you to encourage me to do it. And so to my dad's credit, we went to fucking Kmart, got myself a 10-speed bike, and we got a set of cheap ass Russell athletic weights, red, white, and blue, plastic with concrete blocks inside them. Yep. and I spent that whole summer working out. Like, you couldn't tell me what to do. I would do sit-ups under the armoire or the chest of drawers with a towel put under my toes, and I would do sit-ups till there were blisters on the top of my toes. I would just keep doing it and doing it. And I had a proclivity for, like, I could do it. It wasn't something that was difficult to me because my dad had been a weightlifter in Argentina. So like kind of those genes kind of passed on to me. And so my body reacted quickly to the working out, and it was great. And so when I came back to high school that semester, the same guy, Alan Stevens, tried to fuck with me. We were at gym class, first semester, first day back at school. Did our gym class. We're all standing in line to leave, waiting for the ding of the bell. And he starts to push me from behind, like to go through the door. And he's like, come on, Ruge. I was like, the bell hasn't rung. And he's like, come on, Ruge, come on. And so I spun around and I threw my forearm rather, into his fucking neck and pushed him against the wall. And I said, you're never fucking touching me again. Those days are done. Jeez. I will fucking kill you in front of everybody here. And I remember this black kid who was Jesse. I can't remember Jesse's last name, but Jesse was like, "Oh shit!" and I just went, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And I told Alan, I said, "You can tell Wade too. You guys are never fucking touching me again." Because I had built out, and it was just like it felt so good to be able to tell the bully like, "Fuck you." And so my whole life I've been trying to tell the bully, fuck you, it's kind of been my thing. And so, and from that point forward, I kind of stayed a geek, but I also kind of explored, working out. I went on dates. I had sex. I was doing stuff in high school that I had never thought I was going to be able to do. And all because I started working out and it radiated confidence, And so I got my first plays when I was 15, 16 years old. So all of that, it was just all blossomed out of this situation where I felt like I didn't want to get beat up for the rest of my life. And so for that reason, I think people see me and they don't think geek, they think jock, or they think, overt dude, and also the military stuff. So they don't necessarily think geek, but I am just as geek as any fucking person who's never lifted a weight and has got acne or has got like, stringy hair or whatever. I'm just as much of a geek. I just have a different approach to it. And that has caused, it's caused me sometimes to not get certain jobs, or people don't ask me to be part of their shows because I don't necessarily radiate it. So it's just kind of the game now. And so that's why I built my own channel, because I know what I can do and I know what I can talk about. And I like bringing people in who do that as well. So, yeah.
And, we mentioned earlier how nowadays, geeks are kind of sexy nowadays. I mean, look at Joe Manganiello.
Right.
Who's my golden rule example? Married to Sofia Vergara. First of all, screw you, Joe. We get it.
Shut up.
And then, but he's going to the children's hospitals with the D&D starter kits, and
right, which is great. Right?
Which I love. And I know he and Sophia have talked where he has a D&D room downstairs, and the Big Show comes and plays. I love that the Big Show plays D&D. That's my those massive hands with a little D20 in it. And
right.
But yeah, it is that kind of world now where we're starting to see where these people who we've seen as, the cool, good looking people again, Mila Kunis is play, and Dave Chappelle play World of Warcraft and D&D like you wouldn't believe. And we're seeing a lot more of that come out now.
Yeah, it's cool now.
It is cool now. Yeah. I still hate the Big Bang Theory, but it is cool now.
That's not a geek show. I don't care what you don't cross streams of the geekdom and expect to get away with it with real geeks. That show is just for fun, for people who are middle of the road geeks or who only think these guys are funny to watch. It's not a real geek show.
Well, it's such a caricature of what geeks are, because everyone on the show who's a geek is the most socially inept you could ever imagine. It's like, I know people who are way geekier than that who get laid way more than I do. So, because that's the metric, apparently.
It's confidence, man. It's the number one thing. It's the key to it all is confidence, man. Everything after that is ancillary. And I know with people, it's like, oh, well, I've been confident before. It's like, you got to not care if you get it or not, because you've got something else outside of it. That's confidence. Like, you walk into a room, damn right I deserve to be here. Damn right I deserve to be in this room. Damn right I deserve to have eyes on me. Those things you have to develop over time, and so it's everyone's got their own journey to get there. That's for sure.
And there's also that fine line between confidence and arrogance.
Of course.
So easy to step over.
Yeah. When you confuse one for the other. Yes, absolutely.
So now we get into. I'd be remiss if we didn't spend a couple minutes just talking about the movie trivia Schmoedown. It's how I was introduced to you initially. That and the Flash after show.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh wow. You watched that? Holy shit, man. All right. Right on.
I've been around a minute.
All right. Respect.
And Christian Harloff comes to you and said, we're doing a wrestling-esque movie trivia show.
Yeah.
I don't know how else. Just what like you hear this, what are your thoughts going into it? Was it instantly like a hell yes? Was it skepticism? Like, what was that initial reaction?
Oh, pure unadulterated excitement. Unadulterated excitement. I couldn't wait to do it. I couldn't wait to compete. I couldn't wait to show what I can do. I was so excited to do it. And when he said I need a heel, I was even more excited to do it, because he said, no one's going to understand what I need. You get it. You're a professional wrestling guy. You get it. And so I was like, yeah, what do you need? He's like, well, I want to do this, this, and this. And so I was like, great. Yeah, let's do it. I've got an idea for a character. And he's like, yeah, I want someone who's like outside the realm. And look, we'll fight to the end of our days of who came up with the Outlaw. I believe I came up with it. He says he came up with it. But the general overall structure of it, we both came up with. The costume I came up with. But yes, that's how it all, and it was all during a conversation over the phone. And I remember, and people can go back and look on my social media all the way back around this time. And there's a picture of me with the hat on and an NWO shirt. And it says, the Outlaw is coming. And it was for a Schmoedown thing. And so it was like, that was the beginning of all of that. But yeah, it was, as soon as he came to me, because Christian had always been good at kind of guiding me through this thing. I didn't always listen to him. And because I got to walk my own path. But he was always good at presenting these possibilities or these opportunities for me. So that was certainly one of them that I was excited to jump into. And I had no idea where it was going to go. But credit to Christian. From the beginning, almost, he said, like, if this thing takes off, you're going to get a shit ton of followers. You're going to get like people attention, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, it's going to come, but you've got to win, and you've got to, win a title, and you've got to get in this situation where people, and so it was all of that. And, he was absolutely right about that. I mean, my followers absolutely blew up after I got in the Schmoedown and Collider. Like the combo of both really kind of elevated where I'm at now. So, hard work on both sides. So, yeah.
And you've, going through that history, with winning those belts, people saying who's the angry guy in the V for Vendetta mask? Why do him and Scott Mance have such a crazy rivalry?
Yeah, man.
God, I love Scott Mance.
Me too.
We were joking with Steve last time about how one of my favorite episodes, of course, is the Blade Runner episode.
Oh yeah.
I said, except for the fact that I have to keep my hand on the volume dial at all times, because as soon as Scott starts talking, I have to turn it down a little bit. But and then going through the Schmoedown, and then the live events start taking off.
Yeah.
And then of course everyone knows the GIF of Rocha winning the title and the shock and the surprise. Was that feigned? Was that genuine? Like
oh my God, are you kidding? Yeah, absolutely genuine. I had no idea who directed the Burbs. So at the time, I didn't know if Dan was right. And look, he's the greatest of all time. So in my mind, I was like, well, maybe he's got it right, And so when he said it, I was just like, gosh, is that right? So I just had my arms folded and I waited for Christian to say the name. And when he said the Outlaw, I completely lost it because, look, everyone said I was going to lose. He's the unbeatable Dan Murrell. He beat Mark Ellis, Clark Wolf, He'd made mincemeat of everybody he played. And he did that Mike Tyson thing where he beat you and then go over and lift your hand up and hug you. And, he did that thing, and so I was determined not to have, and this is before Dan and I became friends, right? So for me, Dan was a Screen Junkies entity, right? Yeah. And I remember that day, Dan was like super late to the taping. And I was deep into meditating at the time. And remember, that was also the time where I had, I think I had just attempted suicide earlier that year, right? Because I beat Riley to have the opportunity again. I beat Riley a second time to have that opportunity against Dan after he had beaten Mark Ellis. And I was deep into my meditation stuff. That I'd lost a shit ton of weight because of my depression. So like I was in the best looking shape of my life. And mentally, I was in a good place as well because I was recovering from that and working my way through it and meditating. So when Dan was late, all I did was go on the couch, lay down on the leather couches that they had at the time at Collider at the old office, and I put a jacket over my face and I just started doing my meditation. I put on my headphones and I started listening to my meditation exercises. The Meditation Podcast, which is a great podcast, they do guided meditation, which I like. And so it was just getting me in the right. So at no point was I ever intimidated by Dan that day. And everyone expected me to lose, so I had nothing to lose. So I walked into that match and I just was as relaxed as I could be and went toe to toe with them. And yes, I had a couple of outbursts or whatever, but I always play with passion. That's nothing new. Trust me. That's nothing. But it was just like, it was all, and then when it happened, I was just so shocked. And of course, Bibbs runs up and gives the hug because he was a horseman at the time. Oh, but he didn't miss the opportunity to say yes about himself hugging me. So, right. He did make it about himself as he tends to do. But I remember feeling very gracious to Dan for having played me. And that's when I did to Dan what he did to other people. I went over and picked him up by his hand and shook him and gave him the hug. And it was nice. And then I grabbed that belt and fucking lost it, And so it was an incredible moment. And, when you spend a year going after something and it actually happens for you, it was the first moment I felt like this was a sports league. You see so many teams who lose it in the final game the year before and it motivates, like the Chiefs just did, right? They lost in that AFC championship to the Patriots. Next year they come back and they win the Super Bowl. It just gives you motivation and fuel. So it was totally authentic, totally shocking that I won, and it was a great day. It was a great day.
And now all this time later, you're gearing up for where, but when this episode drops, we'll be just a couple hours away from a big match against Irwin.
Yeah.
And I am scraping to remember, have you guys faced before?
Ethan Irwin? Yeah, he beat me for the title.
Oh, that
was Ethan. Yeah, he took the title off of me, bro.
Right.
And then I lost the triple threat to him and Bibbs. I was the first one knocked out. So, and we just did a thing on Twitch, and he's very confident that he's going to beat me. He's like, well, I beat you twice, so I just think it's going to happen again. And so I love that. I love that.
He hasn't been around in a minute.
Yeah, well, he beat Snyder after Snyder couldn't get his 5-pointer, and so he was ready. And so, he says he's been studying animation, looking at stuff, and you never know what to expect from Ethan. So I'm just focusing on me, man. If I can feel comfortable and relaxed like I did against Dan, if I can go into the match against Ethan very relaxed, very like zen, I think I'm going to do fine. And I have a chance to win. If I go in overhyped or unconfident like I did in the last 2 matches against him, I'm going to flame out and lose. That's just how it works. And so I just have a quiet, small little belief inside me that I've got what it takes to beat him this time, and we'll see if that happens.
It reminds me of you were mentioning the meditation prior to the Dan match. There was an image. I don't remember if it was Riley or Wendy who posted it, but it was a picture of you backstage sitting like cross-legged on the floor.
Oh yeah,
the mask, with the hat on, and just completely just in your own space. And to me, that rings true of, that's where you need to be.
Thank you, man.
John, I could talk to you all day. I know you're a busy guy. We'll wrap this up here with just, just want to talk with you real quick about just, we've talked to the career, and we've talked the home life. Let from the youth, and then the home life now. You look to where you come, and so you're living in Los Angeles with your girlfriend of how long now?
It'll be 2 years, August 11th.
And how's that going?
It's going really well. I'm very happy. She's so great, so supportive. We have the best of time together. And we're both prickly. We're both alphas, but we also love each other, and we bust balls, and we just have fun, man. And we spend so much time together because she's an introvert, and yet we're never really fucking bored with each other, and the affection's always there. The desire to be around each other is always there. So to me, it's what I've been waiting for my entire life. So, and it's easy, and it's organic, and it's natural. And I never felt this way for anybody. And it's even weird to say I never felt this way for anybody, because it's like, it just seems so natural that you can't even put it in the same terms. It's not even belong in the same universe. It's just its own thing. And I love that.
Are there ever moments, because you are to be in the creative space like you are, we can sometimes become a little insufferable. I'm fully aware of the fact how much I piss my family off. I tell them, nobody come downstairs, nobody go through this door, stay the hell off Netflix. I swear to God, I need the internet right now. Do you ever feel the eye rolls burning into the back of your head at all, or is she very cool with all of it?
Oh no, she'll tell me. She doesn't like sit on it and stew on it. No, she'll say, like, when we were joking about this yesterday at brunch, because she was talking about, because I was saying to her, like, we were talking about my old ex-girlfriends. Just say, I don't know, randomly came up in conversation, because I've had some terrible ex-girlfriends, and I just said to her, I said, I guess I always seem to choose introverts. I don't like extroverts as girlfriends. I think they're great people, women who are extroverts, but I just don't like. And she's like, yeah, because you want the spotlight to be on you. And I was like, no. I said, she goes, well, how many minutes do you think we talk about you a day or a week? And I said, it's a lot. And you know why? Because it's usually 75% of you telling me all the things I'm doing wrong. So therefore, I am the focus of this. I am the focus of our conversations because it's you. So it was very, very funny, and she laughed at it, and she was like, "Oh, all right, maybe you're right." And so it's just like, so we do spend time talking about my stuff because because I do seek her counsel, and I respect her counsel so much. I really do, and she's someone I turn to first to get advice about anything. I trust her that much. And by the same token, I think once she fully dives into this photography job, we are going to have conversations about her career and what she wants to do and blah, blah, blah. And so those are the situations that are going to come up where we start to make her the focus of our conversations, because I want to help her get her stuff off the ground and become successful doing what she's doing and become happy doing what she's doing. It's really the most important thing. Is as terrible as these days can be and exhausting as they can be, I'm happy doing it, and that's kind of important for me personally.
That really is the key, and that's what led to the start of this show. Even is because the show that I was doing beforehand, and we were running our own podcast network. It got to the point where it stopped being fun, and it just felt like work. And at that point, when it just feels like work, if I want to do that, I'll just go to my job.
Right. Exactly.
And I don't want to do that. So,
I agree.
John Rocha, you are always, an absolute pleasure to talk to.
Thank you.
You're a pleasure to have on the mic and on camera. I'm always excited to see what you're going to be up to next.
Thanks, man.
I'm so grateful that you've let me come along for the ride in the ways that I have with the Outlaw Nation and with Top 10.
Yeah.
I've gone from calling you someone that I admire and respect to calling you a friend, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful that you took time out of your ridiculously busy schedule to come on the show today for our season finale, especially. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it.
Dude, it's my honor. Honestly, man, I've grown to enjoy your company and your friendship, brother. So I can't thank you enough. All the work you're doing on that Ultimate Schmoedown show and handling all things and bringing in Mina as a new addition to the show. It's been fantastic to see you build that thing out. And it's been, when you attach your name to something, you hope that people who see you attach your name to something step up to the plate and really kind of, give their best effort. And we're seeing that in the Ultimate Schmoedown show. I see it in the Outlaw Nation, the Facebook page. I see it in the top 10 stuff you do for us. So, I mean, honestly, overall, just like I'm very happy that we are in each other's lives, and I appreciate it. And so it was my joy to be on here as a season for a season finale. And there's more to come. Hopefully there's more to come.
Oh, you will be back. I need a break. I need a break. I'm freaking tired. I haven't had a vacation yet. I need a month to myself.
Fair enough. What's that like?
I don't freaking know anymore. I'm supposed to be camping right now.
But
supposed to be. It's a long story, but let's just say the camping trip got canceled because coronavirus.
Coronavirus.
How I like to end every show is I spend an hour pegging you with questions. So I'm gonna give you an opportunity to ask me one question before we leave here.
Damn.
Just to level the playing field a little bit.
One question of Mike Shea.
This is where it always gets everybody.
Do you have a vision for your final goal?
I have
because I see you in 20 different places.
Yes, I know.
Where is your actual vision, and do you have the balls or guts, for the ladies who are listening, to go after it?
I do have an end game of sorts. It's been in the last year, and this show was part of forming that. Because I was tired of putting all my effort into my own like again with the podcast network. I was running my own show, but I was also trying to keep 6 other ones afloat.
Right.
And in the last year, in the last 2 years, I have written and directed a short film to winning 2 awards. I have made more headway as far as what I like as far as like my writing. I've learned to prioritize a little bit better. Is what it comes down to. The end goal for me, I know, lies as a screenwriter, producer, and director. Those are the 3 things I enjoy the most. That's why I've moved away from acting, as I find myself with the short film in particular, prior to that, I had made several, but I was always writing, directing, acting, editing, and when I finally just sat back and let myself just steer the ship, and surround myself with people that I could trust, I found myself a lot happier. And so right now, the current goal is just to, kind of similar to you, is get my foundation laid, head out west and make an honest career out of the writing and the producing.
There you go. I love it.
So that's a great. Usually I just get stupid shit like, what's your favorite color, or like what's your dream.
What did Steve ask? I know he didn't ask what's your favorite color. What did Steve ask?
He asked, damn, I don't remember. He asked,
he's a philosophical guy, man.
Oh, he asked me about, because we mentioned that I do stand up, so he was asking me about what I saw as the future of stand up post Corona. Like how is it going to continue on? To which I said we're still trying to figure that out. We're opening clubs back up in limited capacity, but it's the protocols. You got a microphone being handed off by 5-10 people in a night, and it's hard to say, because unlike music, where you can practice the guitar for an hour a day and become a master guitar player, you don't know what works in comedy until you do it in front of an audience.
Right.
You need that instant feedback. So
I don't disagree.
Yeah, man. John Rocha, so you've got your match dropping later tonight when the show drops against Ethan Irwin. You've got all kinds of crazy programming going on the Outlaw Nation YouTube channel, as well as the Top 10 show and the Cinephiles. If the people wanted to find you somewhere online, where can they go?
At the Rocha Says is always the best place to go. ROCHASAYS. Come find me in all my iterations there. And come into my YouTube channel as well, youtube.com / The Rocha Says, or John Rocha Says rather. That's the way to go about getting to see where I'm at. So everything is there. Everything hinges there.
There you go, everybody. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, for when he does occasionally post on there, YouTube. Watch him in the Schmoedown. Check out the Geek Buddies, the Cinephiles, the Top 10 show, all of it. And John Rocha, we look forward to what you do next, man.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, John. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care.
Well, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of The Basement Lounge. That'll do it for this episode and for this season. Season 1 of The Basement Lounge has finally come to a close, and I have never been more proud of this show than I have been lately. Yes, the last few weeks have been absolutely trying, pushing me to the brink of contemplating quitting this whole thing. Frustration can push you to a weird place, into a weird mindset. Stress can take you to places you didn't think you could possibly go. But when it all quiets down, and when you come back to all of this in the end, once your emotions have balanced back out, and you realize what a great thing, what a fun and wonderful thing it is you're creating every week for all of you, it makes it all worth it. All the headaches, all the head scratches, all the late nights, it's all worth it. And so that's why I continue to do this show. That's why I continue to make content. That's why I continue to be all over the place, like we just talked about with John. I'm in 20 different places. I do a lot of things because I'm trying to lay that foundation. I'm trying to make a career in the creative arts in some way, as a writer, a producer, as a host. I just love creating. Even if one day the career takes off as a screenwriter or a director, I'll always have a podcast because I love doing this. And I love being able to talk one-on-one with our guests and talk one-on-one with all of you. The show wouldn't exist without all of you. So thank you for a great, wonderful first 50 episodes, for a great first season. We will be back in September for season 2 with some new changes, some new things going on with the show. As I burp into the microphone during my big, huge sign-off, we will be back, and we'll be better than ever. And I hope you guys will stick around. Remember, we're still going to be doing our live streams on Wednesdays and Fridays on Twitch. We'll still be around. Just taking a break for a month so I can rest. But we'll be back. I hope you guys will be back with us. In the meantime, tell your friends, invite them in. The Basement Lounge is a place for everybody. Everyone's welcome here. The Basement Lounge is a place to have a conversation, have a drink, and have fun. To find friendship, to find brotherhood, to find togetherness. That's why we're here. You guys are as much a part of this show as I am. And so thank you. And with that being said, as always, live well, rock on, take care, and bye-bye.